to them.
I grow impatient.
For restoration, Swiftman will return to its historic functionality of consuming a heal over time effect on a target, but with a substantially reduced cooldown and cost. Oh, that's cool. And for moments of special need, classic restoration syndrome, your swiftness will again allow growth, rebirth, or entangling roots to be cast instantly. Communing with the wild spirits in Death's realm has reawakened Restoration Druid's inner knowledge to cast Nourish, a talent option that heals an ally for a significant amount. Nourish receives triple the boon from Mastery, Harmony, which increases the healing for each active restoration heal over time spell on the target. So, the return of Swiftman feels good. I remember when I tried messing around with Resto, I was like, hey, what happened to that? It's been that long since I messed around with Druid, so yeah, getting the triple the effect of Mastery makes me wonder if they're also going to nerf the overall Mastery. There we go. So we'll just have to see. Alright, moving on to Hunters. Masters. Hunters draw on a variety of tools such as specialized position and traps that alter the environment to their advantage. Those who master the strategy of chaining their abilities and coordinating opportune attacks with their bestial companions will unleash their full lethal potential. In general, we feel the core of the Hunter class kits is well realized across all of their specializations, yet each plays in a unique, fun way. As a result, Hunter's core damage rotations will remain familiar in Shadowlands, but several iconic abilities will return, and many talents will be updated. Arcane Shot, Eye for the Beast, Hunter's Mark, Kill Shot, Scare Beast, and Trank Shot will be available for all Hunters to use regardless of their active specialization. Ooh, Kill Shot! I enjoyed Kill Shot back in the day. Hunter's Mark coming back is great. Arcane Shot, that was, I mean, it was kind of a filler, but that was always like a fun boom kind of attack to use. Scare Beast and like Trank Shot. Oh, Trank Shot is definitely going to be an added utility. Scare Beast, cool. We'll just have to see just how how many beasts are actually going to show up in Shadowlands. We'll have to see. To prepare for the fight ahead, all Hunters will have their stable size significantly increased to hold many companions, including the new creatures they discover and tame in the ethereal wilds of the Shadowlands. Sweet. Okay, yeah, there's going to be beasts, but cool. More stuff to hold on to. Alright, Beast Mastery, which I'm familiar with. A Beast Mastery Hunter's strength comes from the bond with their companions, who will ruthlessly fight at their side and savagely tear apart enemies. Bloodshed is a new talent that Beast Mastery Hunters can teach their companions, commanding the beast to tear into their targets. The unfortunate quarry will gain significantly, causing them to take more damage from their pets. Now, I wonder what other selections are going to be available on that row that would compel me to pick up Bloodshed. Otherwise, I might still want to pick up, the double pet or something else like that, right? Beastmaster's Scent of Blood talent is magic. So it now activates when Bestial Wrath is used, granting 2 charges of Barb Shot to bloody targets and empower their bonded beast to take down threats quickly. Now, Scent of Blood, if I recall correctly, which I might not, I believe that increased your chance of getting a Barb Shot proc. So changing it from randomness to control isn't so bad. It's kind of an either-or thing. It's something that we'll just have to adapt to. Anyway, Venomous Bite takes the place of Spitting Cobra and Touch of the Twist. When Bestial Wrath ends, a Cobra will come to aid the Hunter in combat. The Serpent's power will increase based on how many times they use Cobra Shot during Bestial Wrath. Okay, this seems cool. Now, if it's going to take place on the same row, it's going to make me choose between Stomp, the thing in the middle. Oh, it's where you use a Cobra Shot, and that resets the cooldown on your kill command, and then there's the Venomous Bite. So this will be kind of interesting. I mean, it sounds kind of backward though, because you typically want to have as many. You want to have like as many kill commands going out. So instead, you're using a Cobra Shot as a big spender and trying to get like a certain amount before the Venomous Bite debuff ends, and then you get the Cobra comes out. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. I'll be interested in testing
Nether.
that. Marksman, Master Sharpshooters can empower kill shot with Deadeye. A new talent that lets the hunter charge with a kill shot. Sweet. It also makes aim shot recharge faster for a short time whenever kill shot is used. That's pretty pretty straightforward. That's how that works. Lightning Shackle is a new passive talent that causes enemies rooted by their baseline lightning shot to deal less damage to the hunter for a short time after being released from the root. That's pretty beefy. And for soloing, of course. Volley is a new talent. Volley, really? A new talent that enables the marksman hunter to an area over a short period of time. It also empowers the hunter with the trick shot buff, causing all their aim shot and rapid fire abilities to ricochet and hit up to 5 additional targets for half the damage during the entire
Vengeance is mine.
So, is that enemies that were within the targeted area, or is it like any enemy? That kind of would make a difference for me. So, for survival, to take down the horrors waiting for them in the Shadowlands, survival hunters are refining their skills and improving their weapons and gadgets. Expect to see damage increases for Hydra Bite, Butchery, Steel Trap, Tip of the Spear, and the Flanking Strike, along with a reduction in the focus cost of shock rooms, all designed to help them best the beasts they encounter in Death's realm.
You cannot break the brain.
So just a buff? That's kind of cool, I guess. Not to say that survival is doing fine. I'm not familiar with the spec at all. I prefer it to be, hey, we went back to making it a Let's move on to mages. Mages manipulate many schools of magic, but focus their power on one in particular. We feel it's important for every mage to have access to spells from the arcane, fire, and frost schools, especially for utility purposes, even if their damage rotation draws primarily from a single source. And to support this, we're making more spells from all three schools class-wide. In addition, we found that the damage rotation lacked a focal moment that results in a big payoff. As such, the combat rotation is undergoing a significant design that looks to add this while retaining the overall flow and feel of the spec. So, I'm thinking back to like when they first announced Shadowlands. They were talking about, okay, we're going to do an pruning and things like that. And people were like, oh, that's it. We want a big revamp. And Blizzard had said, okay, don't count on like a really big class revamp. Although depending on the class that we're looking at, we are going to see some pretty significant changes. There's new talents, that are going off the talent row and going baseline and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty excited about that. Alright, so general changes: Arcane Explosion, Fire Blast, Frostbolt, and Nerve Image are all tailored specializations, and Fire Ward and Frost Ward return to bolster mage's defenses. Pretty sweet. Arcane Explosion, yes! Nice, free, cheap AoE. Ultra Time also comes back from the past. Oh, that's nice. Allowing mages of all specs to show off their temporal mastery. When cast, the spell gives the mage the ability to return to their initial location with the same health and mana after casting it a second time or after a short duration. Same health and mana. Is that all it's gonna do? Just returning to the location? I thought before it like gave cooldowns and stuff back too, but I'm trying to remember. All mages can also learn a new talent, Focus Magic, which grants an ally instead of their spell critical hit chance. In addition, when the ally critically hits with a spell, the arcane mage receives the same boon for a short period of time. A support ability? Oh my god! God, what was that one Warlock spell called? Target Terror effect? Where you want to buff someone else, and that way if they get stuff and you get a buff, you ideally wanted to buff like either the highest DPS of the day, or you wanted to just buff someone who could get a lot of procs off so that you could do it too. So that's not bad. It's Snapshot's buff. Okay, thank you, Nix. Alright, let's move on to let's get to the specifics here. For Arcane, wild, untamed magic blends through the Shadowlands, and Azeroth's most chaotic magic wielders can't wait to channel it. Clear casting now has an additional stack. Oh, 2 stacks? What? Rendering arcane mages even more capable of decimating their foes. Mastery Savant now extends its damage increasing properties beyond Arcane Blast and Barrage to all spells. Ooh, that's nice. Touch of the Magi moves from its current place as a talent to a baseline arcane ability, allowing wielders to target an enemy that will take an additional burst of damage from all arcane spells and spread that damage to surrounding enemies. That's pretty sweet. Because at least from observation, Arcane has felt like a much less popular spec than the others, notably Fire. So this will be a nice way of making Arcane a bit more attractive. Enlighten is a new talent that rewards mana management. While the Arcane Mage's mana is above a certain threshold, it empowers all arcane damage dealt by a amount. And when it's below that threshold, it increases mana regeneration. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Sounds good. Fire mages now have more control over how and when they spread their advantage and mastery. Fire blast now serves as the catalyst. When used against an enemy who is ignited, it spreads to up to 8 enemies close to your target. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Fire mages' talents are also given a few updates to help promote different playstyles based on the situation they face. Blast Wave now does more damage, and an increased slow duration helps keeps enemies at bay while melting their health away. For mages who want to watch the world burn, the cooldown reduction provided by Kindling is increased, allowing the mage to get their comeback faster with maximum critical strike. Goodness. I like that. The damage bonus that Pyroclasm grants is also being increased, making casting the next non-instant Pyroblast much more satisfying. That seems pretty cool. Sounds like a good opener, assuming that I'm getting that right. With the addition of mirror images and Ultra Time, Frost Mages will have some cool new abilities to weave into their gameplay. One of the more noticeable changes to Frost Mages in Shadowlands is the update to Flurry's Winter's Chill debuff. Previously, Winter's Chill was tied to Flurry's movement speed debuff, which created tight windows and required distance checks to achieve the maximum damage bonuses. Moving into Shadowlands, Winter's Chill is now a much longer debuff that causes Frost Mage's next 2 spells to treat the target as frozen. Oh, that's good. A debuff that increases the critical hit chance for the Frost Mages and their allies against the target. So it looks like we're seeing more of these like little bits of support that classes are able to add. At least coming from mages. You know, it's either do that one arcane, I believe they get a buff that buffs a buddy. This one is more like kind of a group buff where you debuff the targets, everyone can do some additional damage to it. That's pretty sweet. Let's move on to Monk, which this is going to be a bit of a struggle for me, guys. So I'll give this a shot. In preparation for their perilous journey into the Shadowlands, monks return to the Peak of Serenity to study, train, and hone their skills. Several abilities from the original version of the class return to all specializations to reinforce their identity as masters of martial combat. In addition, each specialization will receive a unique celestial cooldown ability, reconnecting them with the mystic nature of Pandaria. Expel Harm, Fortifying Brew, Spinning Crane Kick, and Touch of Death are now available for all monks to use. Oh, thank God. Additionally, Touch of Death returns to its original design, killing an enemy with less health than the monk. Each specialization also gains a unique benefit by dealing damage with Touch of Death. Nice. All 3 specializations will also be able to summon their Celestial to the battlefield with Moxwen, White Tiger, Roku Zhao, Black Ox, and Yulan the Jade Serpent, which were previously talents. Nice! So you can just... Damn, they can just grab them. It's like totems, but, not totems. Brewmaster has a lot of stuff. Okay. Stalwart Brewmaster monks are prepared to do all they can to restore balance and can again choose between one-handed and two-handed weapons to subdue their foes. Sweet! Brewmaster monks now also have a returning passive, Shuffle, which increases the amount of physical damage that is staggered when the monk uses one of several abilities, including Blackout Kick, which was Blackout Strike, Keg Smash, and Spinning Crane Kick. Celestial Brew is a new ability that absorbs damage based on the imbiber's attack power, and Brewmaster monks can once again challenge their chosen with Clash, a returning ability that causes both the monk and their target bull rush each other, and at the epicenter of the conflict, root their opponent for a short duration. I miss that ability. I thought Clash was dope, so I'm glad that one's coming back. All Brewmaster monks will be able to invoke Nuzhao, the Black Ox, to help shoulder Brewmaster's staggered damage. Nuzhao also deals additional damage based on stagger damage purified, which is really cool. For Brewmaster monks, not only does Touch of Death instantly kill any creature with less health than the monk, but it will also clear remaining stagger damage. Damn. Like all stagger damage? Like if I'm in the red and then I'm fighting like a boss or a big group of mobs and some mobs have like low health, I'll just like, boop. That's pretty, damn. I don't recall the cooldown on Touch of Death. That sounds pretty devastating. Brewmasters can imbue their brews with divine powers via a new talent, Celestial Flames. Drinking brews has a moderate chance to grant Celestial Flames, which slightly increases Breath of Fire's damage reduction and spreads its periodic damage to affect targets struck with Spinning Crane Kick. Oh man, that's an easy rotation to get in, I think. Exploding Kick returns as a talent, emulating enemies on impact and blinding them for a brief period of time. Now, I'm not familiar enough with Brewmasters and like their ability to like control enemies when they're already on them. I mean, there's all sorts of things and like slows, and they got like that Ring of Peace and things like that. So adding more to it sounds pretty darn good. All Mistweaver monks, which I'm slightly familiar with, will be able to use Invoke Yulan, the Jade Serpent, to summon the Celestial, who heals allies with Celestial Breath and spawns healing spheres for nearby allies, if they walk onto it. Ugh. Touch of Death now instantly kills any creature with less health than the Mistweaver Monk, and will spawn healing spheres for their allies. Oh, okay, so that definitely gives a bit more interaction for healers. It's like they're standing next to a dude, while they're healing, heal. They see someone, boop, Touch of Death, more heals. That sounds cool. Invoke Chi-Ji, the Red Crane, returns as a talent choice, strengthening their physical damage moderately, and healing their allies for part of the damage inflicted on Fist Weaving's back. Okay. Chi-Ji also makes Mistweaver monks immune to movement impairing abilities so that they can constantly be on the move during the combat. That's pretty sweet. I had looked into like the idea of fist weaving as I was prepping my healer for Horrific Visions. I'm like, okay, this isn't really like a thing, and all it does is not exactly inflict healing based on the damage that I do. It just enhances the healing that I already cast on allies. So I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't like great. So something like this is basically brings fist weaving back as a cooldown, which is pretty cool. Now a class that I'm Windwalkers. Like their Brewmaster brethren, Windwalker monks will once again be able to choose between one and two-handed weapons, which is awesome. All Windwalker monks will be able to call upon a powerful ally with Invoke Schwen, the White Tiger, shown on by the side, and assault enemies with Tiger Lightning, dealing additional damage to targets the monk has recently attacked. Touch of Death will instantly kill creatures with less health, and will spawn chi spheres that the Windwalker can consume to basically use spenders again. In the Shadowlands, wild gods freely wander the woods of Ardenweald, and their magic awakens the Windwalker monk's knowledge to perform Dance of Chi-Ji. This new passive talent has a moderate chance to make the next Spinning Crane Kick free to use, and deal a significant amount of extra damage to all that it strikes. Pretty straightforward, not bad. Now for Paladins. I know Paladins a little bit. That's a lot to read, okay. Devoted servants of the light, Paladins tap into its holy power to protect their friends and vanquish their enemies. In the original version of the game, Paladins had several categories of spells that transcended their specializations, such as seals, blessings, and auras. While we feel that not all of these categories of spells make sense for the modern game, having those categories define the Paladin class. We want to restore that feeling of shared spell categories with the unification of the Paladin resource system and the restoration of several iconic abilities, including auras. While a few of these abilities are situational utility, they play well into the Paladin's archetype as a holy avenger and a bane of the undead. Alright, let's get ready. Let's get my emotional readiness, okay? Blessing of Sacrifice, Hammer of Wrath, Sense Undead, Shield of the Righteous, Turn Evil, and Word of Glory will be available to all Paladins regardless of the specializations. Whoa, okay, so Bosak, cool. Hammer of Wrath, is going to be a prompt thing. Sense Undead, whatever. Shield of the Righteous is going to be available for all specs, including Ret. That's interesting. Turn Evil, the Fear Thing, and Word of Glory. So I wonder what's going to happen to Hand of the Protector or whatever. Holy Power returns as a resource for all paladins to use. Makes no difference to me to fight off attackers and defend their allies. I know that a lot of people were like, over Holy Power, and a lot of other people were kind of that protection paladins didn't have Holy Power, but I mean, that didn't really
versus Gul'dan.
Abilities such as Crusader Strike and Hammer of Wrath grant Holy Power to use, which can then be spent to call upon the most powerful forms of light, including Glory and Shield of the Righteous, to vanquish foes and protect allies. So it looks like the charge, from the looks of it, I guess I'll get into the specifics. I'll react to that. As champions of the light, all paladins can use powerful auras to safeguard and enhance their allies. Concentration aura returns to all paladins, reducing the duration of interrupts and silences. What do you do? A redesigned retribution aura allows paladins to avenge fallen allies with a short burst of avenging wrath, by giving these holy warriors the strength to vanquish evil or keep their remaining allies on their feet. Crusader and Devotion auras are also available to all paladins. So Crusader aura is going to be something that's Demo aura is not going to be by default. That aura is going to seem kind of different. I'm going to tell my allies, all right, go, die. I need my buff. That'll be good. All paladins will also have access to more talent that allow them to manipulate and spend holy power. The Divine Purpose talent will be available for all paladins. Yes! To select and standardize for all specializations, allowing their abilities that spend holy power to have a decent chance to make the next holy power spending ability free, yada yada yada. Oh, and increase its damage or healing output. Okay, so it's definitely confusing. Holy Avenger allows the generation of bursts of holy power in the window. Also, it allows the paladin to spend their holy power to increase their secondary stats for a moderate amount of time. I'm not a fan of Seraphim, but it looks like Holy Avenger is going to go on to a talent bar, maybe. For Holy, the Azurite trait's Glimmer of Light moves to a space in the level 50 talent row, competing with powerful existing options such as Beacon of Faith. While Holy Paladins or talents in row has been replaced by the class-wide aura bar, Aura Mastery continues to give Holy Paladins the unique ability to give any aura a special empowerment. Okay, that's cool. I wonder how this is that going to work for like Crusader aura? Everyone gets to move faster. That'd be cool. Paladins have their own legit, holy paladins will have their own legit stampede or something like that. But having Glimmer as a baseline thing, it was a really popular thing, so I'm cool with that. Let's go with Ret a second. For Ret, the darkest places within the Shadowlands inspire Retribution Paladins to perform various acts in the name of the light. Wake of Ashes is available to all Retribution Paladins instead of needing to be picked as a talent. Cool. Allowing these holy warriors to vanquish evil with a blow so powerful it damages all foes close to its effect and reduces any survivor's movement speed significantly. Now, if I'm remembering this correctly, Wake of Ashes is like just a cone dealy. It's just kind of just a cone. And so now it's going to be changed to a single target explosive thing. So, doesn't seem like a big deal. Imperium Power. Previously, an Azurite trait will be available as a talent, giving Crusader Strike a moderate chance to make the next Divine Storm the next Divine Storm cost no holy power, and increase the damage dealt by a significant amount. Cool. Now for props. Oh, that's it? It's a very short one. To better uphold their oath to protect the innocent, Protection Paladins now exude Shining Light, a new passive that makes the next cast of Word of Glory free whenever Judgment critically strikes a target, enabling Protection Paladins to shield themselves and defend their allies from attackers. Oh man. Okay. If this is going to be a passive, because as a front paladin, at least in my groups and stuff, I love being able to spot heal and be able to get like a nice big heal on people. Now it's going to depend on like how big of a heal Word of Glory does. It makes the next Word of Glory free. Is it going to be a full power? I don't know if there's going to be 3 or 5. If holy power is going to stack up to 3 or 5 or whatever it is. It might be 5 as usual. But if it's like a full 5 cast, it's like, hey, cool. So that's going to make me think of crit. Can I be a crit pally again? Probably not. So for prot, I guess I should just do this a little bit more since that's what I do. I like the changes. The idea of holy power doesn't affect me one bit because I'm used to both systems, whether it's a charge system and Shield of the Righteous, or using a resource like holy power. That doesn't really affect me any. Um, what will make me think about this more is going to be the fact that it's a shared resource, so I'm not going to restrain power either Shield of the Righteous or Word of Glory, something like that. So I think that I don't think it's about that. I'm cool with this. I like this. I'll be curious about the negative. For priests, let's move on. Priests call upon the light to heal their friends and tap into the void to eradicate their enemies. In recent expansions, priest specializations have become polarized around these two ideas, with Holy and Shadow tapping only into their respective schools of power. In Shadowlands, we want to move back to a world where even though Holy Priest excels in their connection with the light, they are still able to harness some shadow magic to deal with foes. Likewise, even though Shadow Priests focus on harnessing void energies, they are still able to draw on the light to protect themselves. It sounds like Discipline is going to get the shaft there. Mind Blast, Mind Soothe, and Shadow Priests all priests to use regardless of their active specialization. Cool. I'll look at this last. With the protective veil of the Shadowlands shattered, the grace of the Naru has slipped through and can be channeled by their most faithful. Circle of Healing is now a baseline spell for all Holy Priests, which is great, freeing them up to master a new talent in its stead, Prayer Circle. Prayer Circle empowers Circle of Healing, reducing the cast time of Prayer of Healing moderately for a short time when cast. That's a nice combo. Circle, Prayer. That kind of brings me back to like old Wrath days when you would do something kind of similar to that. For Shadow, in the realms of death, Shadow Priests will learn how to ascend to the peak of their power with a new talent, Death and Madness. Each time a target dies after being slain with Shadow Word Death, the Shadow Priest gains a substantial amount of insanity over a few seconds. In addition, the Shadow Word Death resets, ready to use on their next victim. Ooh, that sounds like a good maintenance. A way to like chain and keep your insanity going. That's pretty neat. Surrender to Madness returns with a wicked twist. On use, the Shadow Priest instantly gains a huge spike of insanity and casts Void Eruption on the target. Over a long duration, insanity generating abilities grant 100% more insanity, and you can cast your spells on the However, this power comes at a terrible price. If the caster fails to slay their target during the buff window, they succumb to the shadows and die. So it's back! Instead of an absolute death thing that you want to use at the end of the fight, I mean, right now it's just like, okay, you pop it, you get some cool stuff, and then you get like a debuff or something like that. Now it's just, yeah, it goes back to you die. Now, of course, yeah, we're going back to like Legion days where we just had to survive for as long as possible. So we'll see how this works out. All right, now Discipline, since I kind of know Discipline. Discipline priests are masters of balancing the forces of light and shadow, and the changes in Shadowlands cover both ends of that spectrum. Light's Caress is a new ability that the most powerful disciples of the Light can use, enabling Discipline priests to heal their allies by blessing them with Power Word Barrier, and healing them again if they're still under the barrier when it expires. Huh? Okay, so, hold on. It's a new ability that enables Disc priests to heal their allies by blessing them with Power Word Barrier, and healing them again if they're still under the barrier when it expires. Okay, that seems like a weird one. Maybe I'm not getting it. Discipline priests who dare to lean into darker magics can learn Shadow Covenant. This reimagined talent instantly heals a chosen hero and 4 other injured allies within a small area, and moderately increases the damage they deal for a short period of time, during which they cannot cast any holy spells. Oh, like penance. It's kind of a bummer, right? Yeah. I don't know how I I feel about that one. New to discipline in Shadowlands, Mind Blast will provide a powerful burst of damage and atonement healing, along with an absorption shield for a significant mana cost. So, is it like we're going to be deciding between Penance and Mind Blast and such? That'll be kind of interesting.
They will never
Alright, moving on to Rogues, my worst class. Oh boy. Alright, throughout WoW history, Rogues have always had a broad utility toolkit for damage, control, and survivability. But during the development of Legion, we felt a need to distinguish each of the specs from each other and give them a unique identity. This resulted in us dividing up much of the core rogue kit among the 3 specializations, making each feel a bit thinner than before. For Shadowlands, we're working to correct this problem by restoring many iconic rogue traits to the base class, while preserving much of what's novel about each specialization. 3 specializations of rogues and strengths they learn while mastering their vicious skills. Assassins teach the basic situations, allowing subtlety and outlaw to once again coat their blades with instant, crippling, and numbing poisons. Nice. The lost art of a well-placed shiv in the target side allows a concentrated version of poison to inflict the target for a short duration. Pickpocket will frequently uncover new ingredients that can be mixed into their crimson, while augmenting its power next time. Crimson, oh, that's neat. Crimson Vial actually does more than just like and all that. Assassination Rogues continue their mastery of poisons with the returning shiv ability, as they talked about, providing a moment of increased nature damage on the victim, mirroring the gameplay of Toxic Blade, which is their easy talent, and I didn't like that talent very much. Their poisons will be stronger and apply to their blades faster than other rogues, along with always infecting targets when attacking from stealth. Assassination once again has access to ambush as an option for their initial attack from stealth, but I want to use instead. Blindside has been changed to give the assassin a chance to allow access to ambush even while out of stealth, with a higher chance on lower health targets. Nice. Shiv gets access to another upgrade through Toxic Blade. So Toxic Blade is still going to be around? Okay, so that's right, it's going to be there already. Okay. Reducing its cooldown to provide more frequent assaults of the Alright. Outlaw. Ever resourceful and hungry for an edge, Outlaw rogues have traded in the combat environment of their rogues for an which can be manipulated to line up with their staggering finishing moves. What? Okay, so no more hoping for Yahtzees, I guess. Frantic combat will reduce the cooldown of Roll the Bones through Restless Blades by spending combo points. Kidney Shot returns to Outlaw's toolkit with Between the Eyes, making their foes more susceptible to their critical strikes instead of stunning them. Oh, so they're losing a stun. That part kind of sucks that they lose a little bit of that utility. But in exchange for a little bit more output. Evasion returns as Outlaw's defensive ability, with Riposte becoming an upgraded talent option. Retractable Hook now also increases the speed of the rogue's grappling hook, getting them where they need to be faster than ever. Does it need to be that much faster? Oh, I know Kidney Shot is a stun, but then Between the Eyes is just like a thing that it's on a 30-second cooldown before baseline and all that. So maybe it's not as big of a loss as I think it is. Subtle. Don't forget about that one. Always looking for an advantage in combat, all subtly rogues have mastered the art of Find Weakness, which was previously a talent. Attacking from stealth and other abilities allow the rogue to bypass their target's armor, but also causes additional shadow damage when they are struck by a viscera. Find Weakness also mark a large number of targets when to set up for a new finisher, Shadow Vault, which also assaults targets with Find Weakness with additional shadow damage. That sounds pretty cool. Shadow Dance gains the power of Dark Shadow, previously a talent to increase all damage active, at the cost of less frequent dancing. Rupture returns as Subtlety's damage over time bleed finishing move instead of the shadowy Nightblade. However, they still have access to movement speed reduction and healing reduction through poisons. So it's back. Alright, for Shaman. As a class, Shaman have long had some of the most distinctive categories of spells in the game. Totems, shocks, and chain spells. but over time, some have become the domain of specific specializations. In Shadowlands, we're giving these types of abilities back to the entire class. As a player levels up, they'll be exposed to the many ways a shaman can interact with the elements to overcome challenges. Over time, the shaman will discover which of these tools they have the strongest affinity for, and which abilities they like to focus on as they master the elemental forces. So, I'm going to speak to my inexperience as a shaman, and I feel overwhelmed with like, oh, throw down totems. I feel overwhelmed. I mean, maybe it's because I suck at the class, but this kind of speaks to me a good bit. Alright, in Shadowlands, Chain Heal, Chain Lightning, Healing Stream Totem, Flame Tongue Weapon, Flame Shock, Frost Shock, and Lightning Shock will be available for all shamans to use regardless of their specialization. Stream Totem also returns as an ability for all shamans to use, which bombards nearby enemies with fireballs for a short duration. Nice! So this is already pretty impressive that we had Healing Stream Totem back. Stream Totem, I like that one too. And then the fact that, of course, all these abilities are going to be available spec-wide or class-wide is going to be extremely cool. All right, Ellie Shaman first. A Maelstrom resource and accompanying bar have been removed. I kind of don't mind that. Returning elemental shamans to their former cooldown management playstyle. When we added Maelstrom to Shamans of Legion, we wanted to improve performance around the use of Earthshock and Earthquake in their rotation. But the addition of the resource had the side effect of converting the spec into one with builder and spender abilities, which comes with certain limitations on the payoff of its spenders. When an elemental shaman presses Earthshock and it consumes most of their resource, the expectation is that this moment is the peak of their rotation and there should be a big payoff. Which, yeah, I kind of feel that too. But we want the focus of the rotation to be about managing your Flame Shock debuff on multiple targets to maximize the potential of Lava Burst through Lava Surge procs, which I don't notice right now because Flame Shock has like a really long, not really long, but it has a long enough cooldown that it feels awkward. And I know that there are traits or talents that let you cleave or that let you do apply 2 Flame Shock debuffs, but that doesn't feel very good either. Anyway. Lightning Bolt and consequently Earthshock are meant to be a flavorful but secondary part of the single target rotation. As such, we are returning to a design that relies on building aspects of Fulmination to determine when to insert Earthshock into the rotation. Similarly, Chain Lightning and stacks of Size Defender will serve to enable Earthquake. So it sounds like they're kind of separating. Separating some of these schools to be like, okay, I'm fighting these kinds of guys, I'm going to use these attacks. I'm fighting this kind of guy, I'm going to use these attacks. That's kind of how it feels. Echoing Shock is a new talent that blasts a target for significant damage. It makes it so the shaman's next healing or damage spell cast a second time shortly afterward without costing additional resources. Okay, cool. Simple. Enhancement, which I don't know very well, and that's a lot to read. Okay. As with Elemental, the Maelstrom resource and Maelstrom bar have been removed from Enhancement Shaman. Enhancement will return to a specialization based on managing a number of cooldowns with high points built around repeat casts of Storm Strike. In Shadowlands, Enhancement Shaman who chain certain abilities in combat will see their efforts rewarded when the time is right, with the capacity to unleash a powerful cooldown dealing devastating damage. Maelstrom Weapon is going to come back, giving each attack a chance to grant a stack of a buff that can be used to make your next healing or damage instant. I kind of remember that feel. Flame Tongue Weapon and Windfury Weapon can once again be applied to Enhancement Shaman's weapons, imbuing them with the power of the elements to suit the situation. I'm just remembering now that they didn't say anything about giving two-handed weapons back to enhancements. Let's see if I end up reading that. The passive bonus provided by Hailstorm has been redesigned so that it resets the cooldown of Flame Shock and Frost Shock when the Shaman uses Storm Strike. Cool. Searing Assault metamorphosizes into a powerful fire attack, striking the foe for significant fire damage and causes their Searing Totem to cast incredibly fast. It also triggers Flame Shock to rapidly dish out its damage over time burn effects to melt enemies. That sounds neat. Overcharge now generates 5 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon instantly, and another stack every second for a short duration. That sounds pretty big. Stormkeeper will make your next 2 lightning bolt or chain lightning spells instant cast and yada yada. Oh, so is Stormkeeper just going to be an enhancement thing now? Maybe. It also benefits from your Maelstrom weapon, lowering Stormkeeper's cast time so the enhancement shaman can chain powerful abilities together to pummel down foes quickly. Elemental Blast is now a talent option, giving this melee-focused spec and access to a powerful spell to destroy foes from a distance. It also benefits from Maelstrom Weapon's effect, which can reduce its cast time or even cause it to become instant cast. If you're Maelstrom. This is a lot, dude. That's big. That's something that's really hard to speak or react to. Apart from me not having the experience, we're gonna have to really sit down and play this thing. Alright, once Restoration Shaman step into the realm of the Ancestral Spirits, they will find new ways to tap into the element's powers. Earth's Shield can now be used by all Resto Shaman without needing to select it as a talent. Cool. Surge of the Earth is a new talent that expends a few charges of Earth's Shield to significantly heal the current Earth Shield target and several nearby allies. That's kind of like the whole Life Bloom Swiftman combo, but with a little AoE sort of deal to it. It's not bad. One of my guys, Crab, is saying, Enhanced sounds awesome so far to me. Ellie is a major improvement, but so far based solely on this, going back to enhancement. I definitely want to see see it in action, and I'll be interested to hear what you think about it later. Alright, Warlocks. When designing Warlocks for Shadowlands, we had a few core goals. As part of our effort to distinguish classes as a whole, we're bringing back curses that Warlocks can use as proactive, situational tools, satisfying to use in special cases, but not something they should feel obligated to use when fighting every enemy. Abilities like Demonic Circle offer unique ways to interact with the world and combat spaces. Spec-wise, we're making relatively minimal changes to Demo and Destruction, as we feel their core rotations and talent options fit well with our goals for Shadowlands. With Affliction, we're making larger changes to bring the Specialization's gameplay more towards managing damage over time effects, rather than saving up for a major burst moment. That is exactly what I ended up doing for my Warlock when doing Visions. I was like, alright, ... reap, and then when I fought the big guy, big drain life, and then I just melted those guys. So, yeah, these guys are kind of speaking to me on that. All Warlocks will be able to afflict their foes with Curse of Tongues, Curse of Recklessness, Curse of Weakness, and Curse of Doom. Ooh, Curse of Doom, yes. In addition, Warlocks can manipulate space with Demonic Circle. Tongue-Tied is a new talent that empowers spells lobbed to targets suffering from Curse of Tongues, causing them to seal the victim from receiving healing effects, forcing them to succumb to all incoming damage for a moderate amount of time. That's messed up. Definitely a PvP sort of thing, which makes me wonder about PvP talents. Is that still going to be a thing in Shadowlands? And if so, what are they going to get? Alright, for Affliction. Unstable Affliction sacrifices its stacking effect to torture its victim longer. Actually, let me reread that. Unstable Affliction sacrifices its stacking effect to torture its victim longer, and all without consuming a soul shard. Oh, so I can just cast it now. Okay, cool. Soul Rack is a new channeled ability that ravages the foe's spirit, empowering Warlock's periodic spells to deal a significant amount of bonus damage to an enemy affected by this dark magic. So it's kind of like how I'm trying to think from like, didn't Drain Soul used to have that sort of effect? Where that's how it is right now. You throw a bunch of dots, you use Drain Soul, and then they take some bonus damage or something like that. Affliction Warlocks can exacerbate the melees that they sow with a Malefic Rapture. Yeah, Malefic Grasp. There we go. That was the ability. It was called Malefic Grasp. Was the thing. Anyway, it's a new ability that causes their periodic spells to tick significantly faster while the victim is suffering from the malady. Okay. So it's an ability, not a channel. They just take more damage. So, how weird. It's like they took Unstable Affliction and they gave, instead of the stacking debuff, you just have these other spells that you stack on top. It It sounds busy. I'm going to be curious how this works. New talents will be available for affliction warlocks to more effectively drain away the life from their victims. Some seeds will now put 2 additional seeds into nearby enemies, which, combined with the new rupture ability, can make for explosive results. So instead of 1 additional seed, it's 3 targets that can be hit with seed. Yeah. Okay. Finally, Doom is now available for Affliction Warlocks to use and deals more damage with a shorter damage over time duration. If Doom kills the target, there is a slight chance the Warlock will summon a Doom Guard to fight for them for a period of time. I've always had a mixed feeling about Doom and how unreliable it can be. When it comes to getting a Doom Guard, and especially that if Doom has to kill the target, it made it very unattractive, in my opinion at least. Alright, demo. Dark Pact will now scale with a spell power to deal more damage than ever before. Okay. Demonology Warlocks will also discover that the Dark Fury talent has a new effect. In addition to the cooldown reduction it provides, it empowers the Shadow Fury by increasing its area effect as the spell crashes down on the battlefield. Wow, that is really minimum. That is really minimum. Okay. For Destro, Fire and Brimstone is getting an upgrade. It now generates 2 Soul Shard fragments for each additional enemy struck by the Warlock's empowered Incinerate. Yeah, they weren't kidding. Just Affliction is going to be Tess. Alright, Warriors. Clad in heavy armor and wielding brutal weapons, it's often forgotten that warriors are also hybrids, equally adept at dealing damage and protecting their allies on the front line. We want to restore utility to all 3 warrior specs by bringing back many iconic abilities that are useful across the game. In addition, several talents have undergone revision for each spec to increase build diversity and gameplay variety. Execute, Hamstring, Ignore Pain, Shield Block, Shield Slam, Spell Reflection, and Whirlwind are now available to all warriors to use regardless of their active spec. Furthermore, Challenging Shout and Intervene are returning. Nice. And all warriors can use them to turn the tide of battle. Shattering Throw is also back with a new twist. It will deal devastating damage against foes protected by an absorption shield. That'll be interesting. Lastly, Double Time and War Machine can now be utilized by all specializations in the town. Okay, that's cool. Wow, so that's gonna make passive bubbly. I do wonder if that's going to work on passive bubbles, because we see in Battle for Azeroth and whatnot that you get a lot of that passive shit going on. So if Shattering Throw can get on the cooldown, if it can do additional damage there, that's gonna be great. But yeah, I've never been all that affected by I'm bubbling against the warrior. I don't bubble against the warrior. I just end up killing him beforehand. So, Anyway, let's get to the specs. The enemies of Maldraxxus have inspired arms warriors to return to several key martial tactics and abilities. Piercing Howl can now be used by arms warriors, giving them another way to stop enemies in the tracks by dazing them and significantly reducing their movement speed for a short duration. Really? Wasn't it demoralizing shouts that warriors had? Something like that? Anyway. Cleave has been redesigned. After striking 3 targets with Whirlwind, the warrior can use Cleave to strike all enemies in front of the warrior, inflicting deep wounds, which is a scaling bleed effect. Oh, nice. Oh, wow. That's messed up. Okay, great. The Deadly Calm talent has also been redesigned and will completely remove the rage cost of their next 4 abilities. It includes a passive effect that increases the warrior's maximum rage by a moderate amount. Dreadnought now takes on the Seismic Wave Azurite trait, empowering Overpower to deal damage to enemies in the line. When Overpower hits 2 targets with sweeping strikes, Dreadnought causes 2 devastating seismic waves. Fury Warriors will find themselves at home in the Shadowlands and will be able to perform feats in battle that were previously unfathomable. Fervor of Battle is a new talent, where the warrior loses themselves to their bloodbuster Whirlwind and also slams their primary target and gains additional... Yeah, that's a busy thing, where the warrior loses themselves to their bloodbuster during the Whirlwind and also slams their primary target and gains additional range. Wow. Warriors will now also be able to learn Onslaught, in which the enraged warrior brutally attacks their enemy for a large amount of damage and generates some rage. Nice. And also it's going to be an enrage ability. fucking Berserker has been reimagined. Now, when the warrior reaches 100 range, they gain haste and movement speed over 50 seconds. Wrecking Ball returns to count, which gives the warrior a moderate chance for their next roll-in to deal a devastating amount of damage, which sounds pretty sweet. Fresh Meat now also causes Bloodthirst to always enrage you for the first time you strike the target with Bloodthirst. That one doesn't sound as impressive since it always enrages you just that first time. So it would be great for like certain kinds of fights, PvP, questing and stuff like that. But for like the raid, not so much. Unless there's like a lot of ad fights or something. In their shining armor, protection warriors are seen as stalwart defenders, but behind the shield stands a cold-blooded tactician. Protection warriors can now tap into their brutal side with some reimagined talent. Best Served Cold increases the damage of revenge, with the damage bonus increasing significantly after a successful dodge or parry has made revenge cost no rage. Oh, that's brutal. Well, I guess that's the point. Menace has also been redesigned with this theme in mind, empowering intimidating shouts to cause all enemies to cower in fear for a substantial amount of time, knocking back those who are not the primary target. Ooh. Indomitable will passively increase the warrior's maximum health by a moderate amount, and spending rage while the ability is active will heal their wounds. Oh, that's damn! I want more health. Gosh, Never Surrender increases ignore pain by either a moderate or a significant amount based on missing health. Whew. So that is a lot. That is a lot to go over. So for those who've stuck around for like the entire thing, thank you for joining me for the ride. And let me know in a comment below, like, how do you feel about these class changes? Do you feel impressed? Are you going to kind of take a wait and see approach? Are you already canceling your account and trying to refund your Shadowlands pre-order? I don't know. But let me know in a comment below, like I said. And otherwise, again, thanks for the ride. I'll see you guys for more Shadowlands coverage. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay crazy.
Behind your servants, I will still fight.
Video done.
The tavern's always open.